So Cyril is the head of global strategy and execution around the Internet of Things at Schneider Electric, right?
Exactly.
And it's really interesting to me how you're driving sustainability and allowing companies to be more successful. And I mean, you've been there for 25 years now, so you've held a number of really different roles. And what's really interesting and key about this is that intersection between technology and business. So really excited to talk to you and hear more from you. So I think many of us have kind of a perception around what IoT is. And sometimes it's connecting my phone to my toothbrush or something. Can you maybe give us a better idea of what maybe it is for business?
Yeah, so what I think a lot of people are saying about IoT is the residential consumer market side of things, which is a lot of gadgets where the business value is not completely always clearly defined. What we do at Schneider Electric around automation and energy management is using IoT as a technology so that we can, on a building, a data center, an industrial process, or a grid management system, we can connect to the infrastructure, we can collect data, and then based on the data we are able to collect, whatever it is related to the environment of the application or surrounding parameters like temperature, humidity, CO2, whatever, we can optimize under constraints. We can find the optimum point depending on the demand of the customer. And in our end markets, a lot of our customers, they don't want just to be efficient. Of course, they want to be more productive if they are a manufacturer, or they want to have a better usage of the space in a building if they are a real estate developer. But they want to be productive and sustainable. Right. And that looks like two contradicting targets to achieve. I'm a manufacturer, I want to produce more, I use more energy. So how do I produce more by using less energy? But with data and with context, thanks to IoT, we can achieve those contradictory goals for our customers.
That's really great. So can you give us some examples of how your teams are actually doing this and really driving innovation in this space?
Yeah. So as I cover IoT for Schneider Electric all across, I work with all the different teams, not just on the technology part. So there are many different elements on the technology that have to be at the leading edge, whatever it is, AI, sensing technology, cybersecurity, different elements that are building blocks of the technology. But for a company like Schneider Electric, the transformation we have to drive is also how do we sell those offers to customers? How do we promote them? How do we operate a business that is subscription-based versus our historical business that is more transaction-based? You build a product, you ship it, then it's over. Now we create a service, we get the customer to subscribe to this service, and then we sustain this service across the life cycle of the customer installation. So my team is helping all the different business of Schneider Electric to have the right technology bricks and competencies to build a solution, but also how are they going to market this solution, price it, and operate it in the real life.
Wow, so it's a whole different level of transformation for you in terms of not just new technologies, but a new way of doing business.
Exactly, because it's really, technology is an element of the transformation, but the way we are doing business impact much more people across Schneider Electric than just the technology teams.
Now, as I understand it, EcoStruxure is kind of the framework that allows companies to do this. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so EcoStruxure is a way we have branded both our architecture, our approach to IoT, and our platform. Compared to some other competitors, we are not selling a platform. It will be selling a platform for me, like a blank platform will be like, I give you a toolbox and build an house. So we are focusing on using this platform, the EcoStruxure platform, to build vertical solutions in our different markets, whatever it is, a building, a data center, an industrial process, or a grid. And we build vertical solutions that solve actual customer problems. And in order to identify what are those problems, we work very closely with customers in a very iterative, entrepreneurial type of mode using design thinking technologies so that we collect customer insight and we actually solve customer problems. We don't want to build nice technologies, wave it in front of customers, and hope they will find a way to use this technology in the best way for them. We really want to be engaged with them in solving actual problems.
Interesting. Now, we've talked a lot about cloud and things, and with IoT, I think with the heightened awareness around security and privacy, In fact, I think you've talked about security being an end-to-end conversation. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so security is absolutely fundamental in what we do. Of course, associated to IoT, you have connectivity. Connectivity creates an additional level of risk. Okay, we should not hide this. That's just the reality. You have more things connected, you have more information circulating, then this information can be used or compromise the system. So we approach cybersecurity as an end-to-end topic. So we look at the way we design offer, and we have a design process towards cybersecurity. So we design for cybersecurity. Then we design our operations for cybersecurity as well, with cybersecurity operations centers and the right process. We certify the offers we bring to the market under a certain number of criteria, so nothing goes onto the market that has not been 100% certified to our criteria. And we also design for incidents, because something will happen. It's a dream to imagine that there will be no breach and no compromise. So we also design for reactivity and containment, to be sure that when anything happens, we can identify it quickly, contain the problem, isolate the problem.
Which is why it's so important to actually be connected, right?
Exactly. And that's the second angle on security that I often mention when I discuss with customers. There is a perception that connectivity is just increasing the risk of security, but the reality is that it is decreasing it as well. When you look, I know in this audience there are many people coming from the IT environment that have been affected by different malware in 2018. A lot of, we have seen within our customers of the equipment that were affected, like in the shop floor in a factory, were part of the shadow IT. They were affected because they were not connected, they were not monitored, we didn't know what was going on. In our experience with field operations at customers with field services, when you have a contractor that with bad intentions is leaving a USB key plugged in with a piece of software, or sometimes we have seen customers where an installation is monitored with a 4G gateway or whatever, if this equipment is not connected, nobody knows what is happening. Right. But if this equipment is connected, if you monitor the data flow and you use different technologies like artificial intelligence to be able to monitor any abnormal pattern on the installation, then you can identify a problem, you can isolate it, you can contain it, and you can even find who is the source of those problems.
Makes perfect sense. That seems like great advice for a lot of the technology leaders here. Do you have any other advice for the technology leaders and developers in terms of how they should be thinking about, connected devices and security?
Yeah, so when we look at the different solutions that we are developing, first, and I think I mentioned it before, there is so much things that we can do with technology. It's an absolutely fantastic playground, but you can get lost very quickly and get lost as a company in trying too many different things. And think about the perspective of the customers. They get to see many presentations about many different fancy things with blue widgets, orange widgets, and different attributes and everything, but what kind of actual problem can you solve? So my advice on people developing connected solutions is that focus on actual problems. Focus on things that matters for your customers and where you expect to create value together with customers. When we, if I give an example of some applications we have developed, one of the big part of Schneider Electric business is electrical distribution. The industrial version of the small circuit breakers you can all find in your home, but apply to a large factory or a large commercial buildings. But when you look at an electrical installation in an hospital, the continuity of supply of electricity is critical. Think about any failure that could not be contained for the operating room. There is life at stake. Think about any failure where you have all the storage of the medicine that will not be identified, and then the installation stops during the weekend. Or whatever other event. So we have developed a solution that monitor all the electrical installation, combine telemetry data that come from the installation with unstructured data that come from maintenance report and other things. And by applying machine learning algorithms to this, we are able to predict failures or potential failures, qualify the risk in different parts of the installation, and know if I am the electrical maintenance engineer of the hospital, I feel safe because when I start my application, I'm able to understand where are the risks. I am able to prioritize my activities. And even better, if I have signed a service contract with Schneider, I know that when a problem is identified, Schneider service engineers are already on dispatch to look at the problem. Because many things can happen on an installation, not just the failure of a component. It could be an equipment that is wrongly configured. It could be a mistake during a maintenance operation. Many things can happen, but what we don't want to happen is things that have consequences for users.
Right.
So that's an example.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, you're almost predicting ahead of time when something might happen so that you can address it.
In another context, if you take a building like an hotel, so we do like an hotel where we are here, we do a lot of things in hotels. By applying the right technology in a building, we can, on average, and we have demonstrated, we can average reduce the energy consumption of a building by 20-25%.
Wow.
And we can at the same time improve comfort. Because none of us like being in an hotel room where there is too much of a cold flow, but if you stop the air conditioning, then it becomes quickly too hot. So how do you balance all those different parameters? So we have solutions that inside the building, by adding tiny sensors that are connected to the cloud, we can measure temperature, CO2, humidity, optimize those parameters, and both reduce the energy consumptions and improve the comfort of the users.
Wow, that sounds like a win for all of us. So we're thrilled. You guys have been using Pluralsight for 3+ years. Can you maybe share a little bit how it's helped your teams be more innovative, how it's helped them skill up?
Yeah, so I think Pluralsight is extremely interesting for us, and we have yet to tap the full potential, so that's what we want to do moving forward. When you look at, you take a company like Schneider, very traditional legacy business, doing a lot of hardware, developing software skills, and then you look at this company and you want to do AI, cloud, cybersecurity, very different sophisticated things. You have two ways to do this. You can either import a lot of people from outside, because you hope that those people will have skills that you don't have in-house. Right. So those people will probably have great skills because of their experience, but they have no context. They don't have business context, they don't know the applications, they don't know the customers, they don't know the business. So they go through a big learning curve to discover that. On the other hand, we have plenty of people in the company that know the business end-to-end, know the customer, have intimate relationship, but they need to be upskilled. So the opportunity to upskill people inside the company is fantastic. It's really, for us, a potential breakthrough in our capability to innovate if we can bring the right ways, the right tools to people of different profile so that they can improve their skill sets toward a certain specific goal. And this is what I like in the Pluralsight platform and the way it is evolving.
Well, I love, we talked a little bit about a learning culture, and we've talked about it here, and it's really cool to me that you're like a shining example of the learning culture, where you've been there 25 years, and you've continued to grow and learn as you go, and you said learning's just part of what you guys do there, because you almost have to, right? In terms of roles, you'd mentioned AI, machine learning. Are there roles? Can you envision roles that we haven't thought of, or roles that maybe we don't have yet in the future?
I think there are two aspects. There are topics that are really emerging as new technologies, where we have strong demands of skills, and there is a shortage on the market. Cybersecurity, blockchain, AI are among them, clearly. But I think there is another angle that is very important to me, is as we do more and more innovation-based technology, and we are, as a company, more and more at the cutting edge of technology, we need to make our non-technical people more technology-savvy. Because they need to understand the boundaries of technologies, so they understand what are the limits, they understand the gap between the marketing stories we can see on the market and the reality. Okay, you can do AI, but how do you do AI if you don't have clean data? Okay, right. So these kind of boundaries need to be understood by executives in different roles. So how do we educate, how do we skill up non-pure tech people into technology so that they understand both the boundaries of technology and the potential of technology?
Exactly.
That's very important to us.
I mean, what could we do with the technology? Exactly. Not just what are we doing.
And this will ensure the right level of conversation between business and technology, and this is what drives innovation.
Awesome. So last question, what do you see as some of the most interesting opportunities around IoT outside of manufacturing?
Yeah, so I think it's true, and you mentioned it, many people see IoT and associate it to industrial IoT and manufacturing. For what we do at Schneider Electric, I think in all the building space, we see a lot of opportunities. Because we cannot look at the building market just like if you want to do a sustainable building, you have to build a new one. 95% of the building market is made of existing building. So what technology do we apply on those buildings with a reasonable return on investment so that you can almost upskill a building with technology so that this building can reduce, can have a consumption reduce, a space optimize, the comfort of the users. And we can do this with IoT, and this is a very fast moving market. So that's one. The second one I will have in mind is all around the new energy landscape, emerging energy sources, the combination of what we call the distributed grid, the fact that tomorrow pretty much everybody is going to have solar power on his roof, combined with a supply of energy that come from utilities, maybe battery storage of electricity in your home. So if you have all those different sources of energy that you need to play with, that's an optimum to find. And IoT technology ensure an efficient use of this technology so that we can live in this new energy landscape and be more sustainable as a species.
Wow, fantastic. It sounds like the opportunities are unlimited. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Thanks for the
Really
opportunity.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.